I am so happy that you're able to join us for this extended interview. Make sure to visit theoffbeatlife.com. Again, that's theoffbeatlife.com to get more killer resources. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this extended interview with Blaire, where she's going to share how to unstick yourself and start making changes in your life. Hey Blaire, how are you?
Really good, thank you.
So before we get to your awesome tips and tricks, can you tell us a little bit more about you and why you live an offbeat life?
Sure. So I'm a coach and a keynote speaker and a content creator, a program creator for people who want to live that offbeat life, who want to leave their corporate 9 to 5 and do something they love for a living, instead start their own business or take some other kind of exciting gambles in their life. And I live an unconventional and offbeat life because I do this myself. So last year we sold our house and bought an RV and set off around Europe in the RV, me and my daughter and our 2 dogs, for 7 months. And I think that probably counts, don't you, as a bit offbeat?
just a tiny bit. So you are definitely an expert in unsticking yourself and making changes in your life because you were able to do that. You left a really amazing job to be on your own, start your own business, and live the life that you have now. What is it that usually stops someone from making the changes that they want to do with their life?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's simplistic to say this, but because it's true, it's fear. It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of failure, sometimes fear of success as well. People fear that they're going to really succeed and they're going to leave their friends and family behind, and that's going to be terribly uncomfortable. But equally the fear of failure. So, I'm not going to succeed and I'm going to end up with my tail between my legs, going back to the life I had before. But fundamentally, I would say what stops people is some kind of fear. And it's really important to try to understand what that fear is.
Yeah, it's always the same thing. I feel like we all have that similarity, is fear of the unknown, fear of failure, just so many different fears. And sometimes when we just quiet that down and shut it off, it's pretty crazy what we're capable of.
Yeah, that's right. And often those fears are pretty unsubstantial. I mean, when I left my job, my original job at the BBC, which is what I did for the first 10 years of my career, my fear was that I would lose everything. I'd lose my home and I'd end up sleeping in a box underneath London Bridge, The reality is that was never going to happen to me because I have family, because I have friends, because I have skills. I mean, I would always be able to get some kind of work that would mean I didn't have to live in a box. So, but this kind of, as soon as I looked at that, as soon as I said to myself, okay, what is the fear actually? What do I really think might happen if this goes wrong? I realized it was ridiculous. And that's normally the case with your fears. That when you look at them properly, you don't just let them swill around in your head. You look at them properly, you realize that they're just very unsubstantial.
So you're a coach, and I'm sure you get that a lot from people as they share with you their fears. How do you help someone, or how can someone change their mindset in order to just go for what they want?
Okay, so this is interesting because most people do think, a bit like is implied in your question, that I have to change my mindset in order to make this thing happen. Actually, the change of mindset happens because you made the thing happen. So you don't get to be confident first and then do the thing. You have to step outside of your comfort zone and be in a situation that feels like you're out of your depth. And that's how confidence grows. Now, confidence and self-esteem is something a little bit different. Self-esteem, if it's a self-esteem issue, then stepping outside of your comfort zone is not going to help you. What you want to do to increase your self-esteem is lots of self-love and self-care and building yourself up from the inside. But if it's a confidence issue, you're only going to grow as a person and realize what you're capable of if you take the action that scares you. So I think take a bold action. Take a bold action that you don't feel ready for and allow your confidence to catch up with you afterwards.
It's just blind faith in yourself,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, even if you don't have any faith, you just still have to do it anyway. I mean, honestly, when we were traveling around Europe, the furthest we got was Croatia, which is, I mean, if you go flat out, it's a 5 or 6 day drive, it's far. And I didn't know that we could, I didn't know that we could do that. We just did it. And I remember sitting we were camping overnight just before we got into Croatia. So we were in Slovenia that night, and then we got in Croatia over the border in the morning. And this campsite had a restaurant. And if you ate at the restaurant, the camping was free. So we're eating at the restaurant. And I was telling the waiter, where we'd been and what we were doing the next day. And this German woman at the next table came over and she said, "Are you telling me that you a single mom drove in a camper van on your own with your daughter and dogs from the UK to here on your own in 5 days?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I'd like to shake your hand." And it was in that moment that I thought, oh yeah, this is hard. I didn't really think about it, but yeah, that was a bit crazy maybe. But, but we just did it anyway, and it turned out fine.
You're back, you're alive. You're both alive. You experienced a lot of things. So it's pretty good. Now, how do you actually continue the progress when you're faced with obstacles?
Yeah. So these obstacles are like the tests, they exist in order to help you grow. It won't feel like that at the time. It's just going to feel like everything's against you. And you might need someone to remind you, this is the belly of the whale. This is the thing that happens. This is an inevitable part of the journey. The fact that you're in the belly of the whale proves to you that you're on the journey. You're going to need someone to tell you that. But these tests are because you have stepped outside of your comfort zone. You now have an opportunity to grow. And I think in those moments, when I think about what they've been for me and when I've managed to get through them maybe most gracefully, is when I have taken a breath and I've stopped. And rather than being in a panic or letting my fear dominate, I've stopped and breathed. And I've thought, okay, what are my options now? What are my options, and how do I need to shift and grow in order to approach this differently? And very often it's my own ego has got all tied up in it. So I remember when we were in Italy and we really needed to come home. My mum wasn't very well, but I didn't want to give up on the journey. And so this ego in my head was like, you can't go, you can't give up. You've got, like 10 followers on Instagram who really care. You carry on and, you can't let them down. And that was all ego stuff. And I stopped and I took a breath and I said, what are my values? What actually really matters to me? Well, family is my number one value. So everything else is less important to that. I need to go home. And so we didn't completely cut our trip short. We went home for a bit and then we went to Ireland and we did a couple of other bits and pieces, but we were planning to travel for a year and we only did 7 months. 7 months was enough. And I had to swallow my ego at that point and connecting with my values, what's important. And I think that when you quiet your mind, you can overcome the obstacles, because sometimes you're the one that's put those obstacles in the way with your ego and everything. You can't see the way forward. Be quiet, be still, listen to your intuition, and your intuition will tell you what to do next.
Yeah. And sometimes whatever it is that you had planned out, it doesn't happen exactly the same way. And you have to do a detour, and that's fine too. And you don't have to be stuck to one thing. You definitely can be more flexible because now you're in that moment where you can change your life how you want it. And you did leave a job or 9 to 5 or something that you didn't really want to be in to now choose whatever it is that you want with your life. So, which is really important.
That's right. It's all part of the journey. You're just throwing the dice. You don't get to say where they land. So you just have to keep throwing the dice and say, okay, what's the next bit of this journey look like?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Blaire, for giving us all of the insights that you have. If our listeners want to know more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, best place is to head over to the website, which is abrilliantgamble.com. That's where all the blogs are, my podcast, our courses are over there. So that's a really great place to start. And then come and join me on my Corporate Escapees Facebook group, because it's a new group. You'll get lots of attention from me. And that's where we're all hanging out, talking about either leaving our jobs and doing something else instead, or already have done it. And now, the rubber hits the road. It's reality time. And we're all supporting each other at that point as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Blaire. I really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed this extended interview with Blaire. Make sure to visit theoffbeatlife.com. Again, that's theoffbeatlife.com to get the full interview with Blaire, where she shares how she was able to escape the rat race to become a nomadic business coach. Thanks for joining me on this extended interview. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. We can also chat some more on Facebook at The OB Live. I'll talk to you soon.